get it in. Does to Smith. Jabari for three and the win. Yeah! He got it!
We are here to Field Rockets News. This is the Rockets Field Podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Lachard Binkley. You can find me on Twitter at Binkley Hoops and all my written work at Rockets on SI. And yes, your eyes aren't deceiving you. We are joined by the one and only Vator. I know it's been a while, but first off, let everybody know where they can find you because, like I said, it's been a while. It's been probably like several months since we've been on the air together. So definitely remind everybody where they can find you, and it's good to have you back.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back, man. People be DMing me. They're like, "Hey, you still doing the podcast?" I'm like, "Yeah, we just kind of busy right now. It's like other stuff going on. Lachard on he on the news, on TV, he on the radio, he at the Rockets press conferences, like he just trying to get podcasts in when he can, and I would have some stuff going on too. But no, I'm glad to be back, glad to be talking Rockets. We got an exciting season coming up. So we're gonna try to lock in and get some more of these churned out. But yeah, you can find me at Vator Sports on Twitter X, and you can also find me at Vator Sports on Instagram for Rockets and Texans related news.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the start of the season. The season starts on Tuesday, which is kind of strange to say the Rockets are the first game of the NBA season. It just kind of tells you how far they've come from the days of playing Charlotte Hornets on opening night. Those days seem to be gone, at least for now. They open up on Tuesday against Oklahoma City Thunder on ring night. Before we actually get into our topics, which is kind of funny because the last time the Rockets played on opening night in the NBA, it was on ring night playing against Golden State, against Kevin Durant. And I don't know if y'all remember. I don't know if you remember, Vader. Of course, it was a game where they won at the buzzer because Kevin Durant's shot was ruled late, like by a millisecond. It was a game where he was 90 feet out of bounds, and they didn't call the out of bounds call.
Is that the one where Harden hit the shot over?
So that was before that. It was the same. That was before that because this was opening night. So this was like when when he was out of bounds. Basically, they didn't.
I just remember every time we played the Warriors, they cheated us. That's all I remember. All the games kind of like we all have like post-traumatic stress syndrome. We all got PTSD for playing the Warriors because like we had to not only play the 5 people on the court who had Warriors jerseys on, but then there was like 3 referees who worked for the Warriors that was on the court too.
Yep. So, and of course, as we know, the last game the Rockets played, official game they played was against the Warriors. But we won't go back into that because we're talking about the new season coming up. The Rockets finished 4-0 in the preseason. But what's that's worth? I mean, it's still better than going 0-4. So we'll definitely take that. But on today's show, we're going to be going over 3 things that kind of stand out to us going into the regular season. We each came up with our own list. We didn't talk about it beforehand. So we may have the same things. We may have different things that at the end of the podcast, definitely stick around because we're going to be talking about our win-loss predictions. I've already seen like several news, so-called analysts kind of give the Rockets wins in the low, the mid-40s, kind of crazy numbers like that because everybody likes to be a little bit different and try to get their name out there. And what better way than to say the Rockets are only going to win 45 games this year? But we're going to kind of give our predictions at the end of the podcast. So let's go ahead and start off with that. Let's go ahead and start with your first thing that you're kind of, looking at or kind of stands out to you or that you may be worried about going into the season.
I would say with the loss of Fred VanVleet, that was a shocking development that happened over the summer. I would say that was probably the biggest, or the offseason, I should say. That was probably the biggest thing that came out. So, like, how did the Rockets absorb that loss? You see them kind of leaning into some things with Sengun that they weren't before. He had that game where he had 13 assists. You see maybe we might want to try Amen Thompson at the point guard. We'll talk about that. That has had some good moments and some bad moments. And then, of course, Reed Sheppard as the point guard has had some highs and lows as well. So I'm thinking the biggest question mark is in those pressure-packed game situations, when we need somebody to bring the ball up the court, not turn the ball over, initiate the offense, get us into our sets, like who is going to be the person who's going to do that? Who's going to be our prime initiator? Because losing Fred VanVleet, despite what you may feel about Fred VanVleet, he was pretty good at protecting the basketball. He handled pressure well. And then he was able to get us into, I mean, like, he didn't get us into our assists very fast, but he got us there. You know what I mean? And he didn't turn the ball over. So with him being out for the season, potentially, you know, hopefully, maybe, knock on wood, he can come back for the playoffs. But him being out for the season, like, who's going to be that person that's going to get us into our offense? Who's going to be that person that, you know, brings the ball up the court and is able to not turn the ball over against teams like OKC? You know, OKC is going to run out a bunch of, like, Lou Dorts and Payson and you know what I mean? Like, they running Jalen Williams, they running out all these guys with these enormous wingspans and who are known to, you know, play pretty good on the ball defense. And so we don't really have anybody right now. And I think it may look kind of bad early in the season, but I'm hoping maybe towards the end of the season that it looks a little better, since, I mean, we really don't have a choice. We didn't sign any guards in the offseason.
And like I said, we hadn't talked about it before, but that definitely was one of my main concerns. One of my 3 things was who's going to be the point guard. Like you said, they're going to be running a lot of it through Alperen Sengun, through Kevin Durant. We saw Alperen Sengun do a lot of that in Eurobasket, where he was at the top of the key and he was a point center, kind of running the entire offense. We saw it through the 3 games that he played in the preseason, where he was the main facilitator. He had one game where he had 13 assists. He's going to be the main guy. But like you said, what's going to be, or who's going to do it when they're pressuring you full court? Do you really want Sengun trying to bring up the ball full court against full court pressure? You're going to have to see who's going to kind of be that guy to kind of take that role over, because we saw Amen Thompson at time, like you said, where he was running the point guard, but he did have some turnover problems, especially early in the first couple of games. And then Sheppard had a good game last night, but how will he do with real ball pressure during the regular season, and, you know, looking even further, you know, along in the postseason? So that's definitely things that you know, everybody, I think, is kind of worried about with the Rockets, is not necessarily who's going to go out there and give 8, 9, 10 assists a game, because I don't think you need that from your backcourt. But they at least have to be to a point where they can get you into the offense when they need to get you into the offense, because you can't have Alperen Sengun handling the ball every single time, because he has so many other responsibilities on offense. He's also going to be your post guy. He's also going to be your rebounder. So he can't just be the facilitator the entire time. So it may be a situation where it's like the Denver Nuggets, where Jokic was the main facilitator and Jamal Murray played more off ball than on ball a lot of time, but he was still a guy that at times could take over that playmaker responsibility. So that may be the same case here. So at the very least, you're going to need Reed or Amen, or even Aaron Holiday, or possibly J.D. Davidson down the line. But you're going to need one of those guys to kind of step up to, at the very least, you know, be comparable to what you saw from Fred last year. They're not going to be exactly what Fred is, because Fred was, like you said, despite what you think of him, his very first year here, the Rockets had their best turnover year in the franchise history, their lowest turnovers ever. And a lot of that was because of Fred VanVleet. He's not flashy. He's not going to go down there, go between somebody's legs and throw a behind the back pass and things like that, or basically pass somebody open like in the NFL. But he is going to do the right thing and not turn the ball over. And that's why MA trusted him so much. So who's going to go, at the very least, give you, I don't know, 30% of what Fred brought you? So that's definitely one of the things that's concerning to me as they go into the season.
Yeah, because I trust Sengun Hub. Like, I kind of believe in it. I think, you know, even going back, you know, years ago, like whenever they did run offense to him, you know, we end up having pretty good or decent results because he does command a double team. He is a threat to score. He is a good passer. The only thing with him was, you know, minimizing his turnovers, and I think he started to do that. And then also, you know, just making faster decisions when he does have the ball in his hands. But I do think that he's made a lot of improvement. Like you mentioned, the Eurobasket thing, he went out there and he showed that, hey, you can run the offense through me. But you don't want him dribbling the ball up the court. You don't want him going. You don't want him like having to bring the ball. Like, we can't put everything on Alperen Sengun. He is our best or second best player now that we have Kevin Durant. But like, you can't make him do every single thing. Somebody has to be tasked with the job and the responsibility of getting the ball over the half court line and not doing so and wasting 10 to 12 seconds just to get him the basketball. You know what I mean? Or, you know, 10 to 12 seconds just to get Kevin Durant the basketball. And The onus is going to be on our guards, our young guards. We got 2 young guards that were drafted number 4 and number 3 in their drafts respectively. And I think that they're going to have to step up to the plate and handle that, because Raphael Stone, as you mentioned to me, or I did see on some of the Rocket Fuel podcast interviews that you did ask him specifically about Reed Sheppard and why they didn't sign any guards this offseason. And he, and no uncertain terms, said that Reed is going to have to step up, so like, we have some question marks, and I think those questions are going to be answered. I think the Fred VanVleet injury has kind of like sped up our timeline. I don't know if we were going to have to rely so heavily on Amen Thompson taking that next leap on ball and Reed Sheppard taking that next leap on ball. But I think we don't really have a choice, because who else is going to do it? You also don't want KD bringing the ball up the court all the time either, because you want him to be doing what he does best, which is put the ball in the hoop, not initiating offense.
Yeah, exactly. And kind of leads me into my second point, and it kind of starts with Kevin Durant. And my second thing that kind of stands out to me, or that I'm really looking at going into the season, is does the Rockets have enough shooting outside of Kevin Durant? Because of course, like you said, Kevin Durant is on the team now. We hadn't actually talked since the Kevin Durant trade, but of course he brings like one of the best shooters of all time to your team, which of course that's at the very least by osmosis that should make your team better as an outside shooting team. Because the last couple of years, the Rockets have been bottom 10 in 3-point. Well, actually, let's just go back to 2020. The Rockets have been one of the worst 3-point shooting teams in the entire NBA. And last year they ranked 21st. They were a little bit better than the year before, where they were 23rd, but they're still bottom 10 when it comes to 3-point shooting. And now, like you said, Fred VanVleet's not going to be there, even though he did struggle last year during the regular season shooting. He was one of the main reasons why they even got to Game 7, because the last 3 or 4 games he shot lights out against the Warriors. And I was expecting him to really have a much better season shooting this year. I just think that he dealt with a lot of injuries last year that he really didn't talk about. And I think that kind of threw off his shooting last year. And I was expecting him to shoot closer to 38% again. And now you also lost Dylan Brooks, who had a career year, 39. Well, you didn't really lose him. You traded him away. But he shot 39% from 3-point range, close to 40% last year. And you replaced him with Dorian Finney-Smith. But now Dorian Finney-Smith is not even ready to begin the season. So now you're going to have to hope that Reed Sheppard can actually do exactly why he was drafted in the first place. Because let's be honest, the reason why the Rockets drafted him number 3 wasn't because they thought he was going to be a great point guard. It's because they wanted his shooting. Now, of course, they hope he's going to be a good point guard, but that's not why they drafted him. They drafted him because he shot 52% or 55%, or whatever crazy number it was at his 1 year at University of Kentucky. So you got to hope that he's going to pick it up. Amen Thompson has gotten better each year. He only shot 27% last year, but he still shot better than the year before. And he actually shot 37% from the corner 3. So he showed improvement last year. He was 4 for 6 from 3-point range in preseason. Yeah, no small sample, but still, you will take that kind of improvement. You're not.
There's no way he was doing that. He was not going to do that his rookie season. He was
absolutely not. Not even 6 shots. He wasn't going to do that. So.
No, that shot was broken. It was broken. In fact, it was so bad. Like when people would talk about like, man, all man has to do is add a jumper, and he's going to be, one of the top 5 players in the league. And I'm like, I got bad news for you, because I mean that jumper was trash, man. It was like everything about it was messed up from the ground up, the mechanics, the release. It had a hitch in it. It was terrible. It was actually terrible. But man, props to Amen Thompson, because he really is a special talent. He's good at like everything else other than shooting, and for him to put the work in, he was grinding hours and hours out there on the court to fix that shot. It doesn't look anything like it did that rookie season.
Yeah, so I mean, he's showing improvement. Even Sengun during Eurobasket, he shot much better from 3-point range. He shot, even though again low sample, but he shot, well enough during the preseason where he wasn't hesitating. He was taking shots from 3-point range with people in his face. So you're going to need that type of improvement, because you can't expect to compete for a championship if you're going to be bottom 5, 23rd in the league in 3-point shooting. It's just not going to work, because teams are going to do exactly what they did. The Warriors did in the playoffs, where they were just clogging up the lane and making the Rockets shoot from outside. They were double teaming Sengun, trapping Jalen and making him throw it to the open man, and the open man more than likely was missing the shots if it wasn't Fred VanVleet in the playoffs. So you're definitely going to need more than just Kevin Durant shooting from the outside this season. So that's definitely the second thing that kind of stands out to me going into the season is can the Rockets at least be in the top 15 in three-point shooting? I'm not expecting them to be the top 5 3-point shooting team in the league, but they have to be a lot better than they've been the last 2 seasons. So just for you, what it kind of stands out is like kind of your second thing.
So just to piggyback on what you were saying, I do have some other concerns, but like the shooting was also on my list. I'll mention something else, but like shooting definitely, because losing Fred VanVleet, he was the one guy who I had confidence in during the playoffs. I felt like he gonna get the shots up, make or miss. He don't, he don't care. He got the dog in him, as people like to say. He has a short memory. You know how like in the NFL you got a cornerback and who might get burned and get a touchdown scored on him. You got to have a short memory, because then you got to get right back out there the next play and play defense and try to defend the pass or get an interception. And I feel like Fred had that type of mentality. He's the type of guy who could go 2 for 11, but he felt like he was gonna make that third one. And unfortunately, like I was a big Jalen Green guy. I was like, but like you saw in the playoffs, like Jalen Green was not there yet. He did not have yet that mentality where, man, I'm gonna make the next one. You know who else around the league has that? It's that Anthony Edwards. You know what I mean? Like Anthony Edwards,
he don't care.
He has what I call irrational confidence. Irrational confidence. Like he really like he could be 0 for 15, Anthony Edwards, but he would take that shot. He'd take a big shot. He wouldn't hesitate. And I feel like Jalen kind of got in his own head, and he kind of like took himself out of the game because he did not want to mess up. He was, he let the pressure get to him. So I wish him the best. You know what I mean? Like it didn't work out here ultimately, but I wish him the best. Getting back on topic, as far as like shooting and all that kind of stuff, I feel like Fred VanVleet was a guy who you could, potentially rely on in the playoffs to hit a big 3-pointer. Second thing that I'm kind of interested to see how it plays out is, what is our defense going to look like now? Because when you lose, Fred VanVleet was not like a great defender or whatever, but he was solid. Teams did hunt him a little bit, but I think they hunted him because of who else was on the floor. If you have an opportunity to go up against Amen Thompson or Tari Eason or Sengun, whoever else is on the floor, I'm going to pick that 5'11" dude and try to see if I can spawn him, but I think he was pretty solid for us. And then we also, like you said, we lost Dillon Brooks, who, despite what you might want to say, I feel like Dillon Brooks, he had some breakdowns in the playoffs, unfortunately, but like throughout the season, he was pretty consistent shooting. He was pretty consistent defensively. We were able to put him on some dudes, that some of the, we had ability to throw bodies at people, Tari Eason, Jabari, Amen, Dillon Brooks. And, I don't know, like Kevin Durant is a capable defender, but he's older now. And you also don't want to stick Kevin Durant on like another team's best player, right? And so like, I know Amen Thompson is going to be getting that responsibility, probably, according to Ime, probably most of the time this season. And that's cool. But I also think about the fact that he's also going to have such an increased responsibility offensively. Like, are we going to get the same Amen Thompson that we got last year? A guy who probably should have been, he was a first team, all NBA defender, but he was a guy who probably had a case for a defensive player of the year, right? Are we going to get that same level of defense from him? What is Jabari's defense going to look like? What is defense going to look like when they got the double big lineup on the floor? Like, it's just things about the defense. The defense did not look that great during preseason. And so we lost a couple of, key people in our defense. So I'm just kind of wondering what it's going to look like. And I know Dorian Finney-Smith is a really good defender and he's out. But that's just kind of one of the things that I'm kind of wondering. I'm not worried. I wouldn't say I'm worried about it, but I'm interested to see, are we still going to be that same level of lockdown defense that we were last season?
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's something a lot of people are not talking about, because you do have Amen Thompson, so they just kind of see Amen Thompson like, oh, well, the Rockets defense is going to be fine. But you lose Dillon Brooks. Dorian Finney-Smith was supposed to be his replacement. We don't know when he's going to be able to play. You bring in Kevin Durant, yes, your offense is going to be much better, but how does that affect your defense? The Rockets like to do a lot of switching. I know they got really well, I won't say really good. They got better as the season went on playing their zone defense, but you don't want to have to try to depend on the zone defense the entire time. So how would they look with Kevin Durant kind of doing the same thing as far as the switching defense? Because now you're going to have Kevin Durant switching instead of Dillon Brooks. And even though Dillon Brooks did lose a step or so on the defensive end, he still was one of the better defenders in the league and definitely your second best defender on the team. So, yeah, now you got to figure out how's your defense going to look. And again, it's preseason, so I don't try to go too
Right.
far.
And I'm not trying to imply that
yeah.
Kevin Durant is a defensive liability, because he is not, and he is capable of locking up. Like when he gets down in his stance and all of that, like he's a good defender, but he also is getting up there. And like I said, you're not trying to put Kevin Durant on another team's best or second best player. You're not really trying to utilize him that way, even though he's capable. And I did see a funny clip, Kevin Durant. I don't know if you saw it. It came out yesterday when they were releasing all of those clips from that Netflix starting five. And he said basically that offense wins championship. There's that mantra that defense wins championship. He's like, nah, it's about getting a bucket, man. You got to go out there and get a bucket. And to some extent, he is correct. But you got to be able to do both, man. You got to be able to lock up when it's time to lock up, and not saying that he can't do that. He can. And then he does bring that element of that we did not have last year of a guy who we could throw the ball to and who could operate, from that mid post all the way out to the 3-point line and get a bucket on his own.
Yeah, and I guarantee that's not Emme's mantra. Is go out there.
I wonder how Ime felt watching that. I wonder if anybody sent that to Ime and was like, "Hey, man, look what Kevin said."
Ime is not like, "Yeah, we're just gonna go out." I don't think I've ever heard him say, "You know what? We're not really worried about the defense. We're gonna go out there and score 130 points and just beat everybody down the court." I don't think I've ever heard him say that one time. But I get what Kevin was saying. You can't have a bad offense. We saw that with the Rockets. As good as their defense was against the Warriors, they lost because they couldn't score. They couldn't get score more than 95 points or whatever they scored. And I don't think they can score that much in Game 7. I think I kind of blanked out Game 7, just sitting there watching that mess. But anyway,
but it was funny though, because he was like, anybody could get down in the defensive stance, is basically what he said. Now Kevin is funny, man. And then speaking of, like, he had a lot of funny quotes, man, that came out yesterday. Kevin Durant is a character. He had one where they asked him why he always responding to people on Twitter. And he was like, "It's like my coffee in the morning." He's like, "I'm gonna put the spotlight on you so you can see, like, having the spotlight on you ain't all it's cracked up to be." And so shout out to Kevin Durant, man. He's an excellent addition to the team, man.
It's gonna be an interesting year, and I'll just make sure I try to at least stay on his good side for most of the year. Now,
he'll cook you. He'll cook you on Twitter, though.
His Twitter rants. So far, so good. I haven't, asked me anything crazy, but it's a long season. Anything could happen. So we'll see how that goes. But I would say my third and final thing is actually kind of going back to Jabari. Is can he take that next step this season? Be the guy that the Rockets went out, drafted number 3 overall. Yes, we know they initially probably wanted Paolo Banchero, and it didn't work out that way. But they still thought enough of Jabari to draft him number 3. They still thought of enough of him to give him that contract extension before they gave anybody else a contract extension, as far as the people that, like, Tari Eason, that came out around the same time. And we know it's different reasons for that because of how they're trying to structure it and how they're trying to work with their money. But they felt enough to give him that contract and not let him go to be a restricted free agent. So they have the confidence in him. He's looked a lot better in the preseason. I even think at times he looked great against the Warriors. He just didn't get enough playing time, even though in that last game he kind of struggled, kind of looked a little bit lost. But overall, he shot really well in that playoff series. And then during his preseason, he's looked really good. So can he take that next step? Doesn't have to be a superstar. Doesn't even have to be a star level player. But can he be an Aaron Gordon in Denver type of player? I mean, he's not, athletic as much as Aaron Gordon, but Aaron Gordon's kind of like the guy that's kind of forgotten. But then all of a sudden you look up and he's out there giving you a 18-10 game while everybody's focused on Jamal Murray and focused on Jokic, and he's out there giving you those type of numbers. can Jabari kind of be that guy? Because he will be starting this year. Most of the focus is going to be on the big three of the Rockets. So can he kind of take that next step? If he can take that next step and be the guy that's consistent and shooting 37, 38% from three, and that can give you that above average defense, I think that's what's really going to make the difference for the Rockets this year, because you know what you're going to get from Alperen and Amen and Kevin Durant. You know what you're going to get from them. But if you get that type of, borderline all-star type of play from Jabari Smith, that I think that's what really take them to the next step or the next level.
I almost can't believe that I'm about to co-sign you on this, because like, I don't know, man. Like, it's always been something about Jabari that I'm just like, man, not that I don't see it. I see the potential, but like, this is kind of the first time in a while where I've been like, okay, maybe he can live up to being a top 3, top 4 pick in that draft class that had Paulo and Shed in it, right? And Jalen Williams. He looked a lot more confident. His body is definitely changed. He's been in the weight room. He's big, a lot bigger. He's more physical. Like I said, he's more confident, and it's just translating overall to like everything that he's doing on the floor. You see him trying to put the ball on the court more. You see him pulling up without hesitation.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, man. Like, it's very intriguing, because like, if you got a guy who's 6'11", who's out there doing the things that he's showing that he can do in preseason, if he's actually able to like translate that to the regular season, his contract suddenly, a lot of people thought the Rockets overpaid for him, but suddenly his contract is a bargain. It's a steal, right? And I'm gonna be honest, like his playoff run, he didn't get a whole lot of minutes, but like the minutes that he did get, there was a lot of positive signs there. He didn't look like the moment was too big for him, and that's huge. That was something that I was kind of looking to see from our young guys, like who was able to step up. And I think at times he did step up. And so Jabari was he was a person who is on my list of like question marks going into the season, of like if he can finally reach that potential that they felt like they had when he was drafted initially. And he had a really rough rookie season. He was I mean, I'm not even exaggerating. He's probably like one of the bottom 5 like worst players in the NBA that rookie season. In like, if you look at like the analytics and all of that kind of stuff, he did not have a good rookie season. His second season was solid. His season last year was pretty decent. And so he's been on a trajectory where I feel like he's going up. And so like, if he does actually make that next step, I think the Rocks are going to be a lot better for it, because you got a 6'11" dude out there who's hitting 3-pointers. And then he has the best like role model for him to like try to emulate right here on the team. And I'm not saying that he's going to be Kevin Durant. I know that was kind of like the talk when he was drafted. I never saw that because they are like different kind of players. But like, you got a guy who is kind of like same size as you, and you can kind of like, you can learn from the best. Like,
and he's attached to him at the hip.
They
are always warming up together. They are always around each other. So it's just crazy, kind of how he's already gravitating toward him.
No, I love that, because like, for me, like if I'm on a team and I'm and Kevin Durant is probably a person that, I mean, I think probably every player in the NBA has looked up to. These younger guys coming in, you got the LeBron, you got Steph Curry, you got Kevin Durant. Kyrie, there's a handful of guys who I think like these younger players coming in have all kind of idolized and looked up to and emulated on the court. And for Barry, being a player of his height, and frame, I feel like Kevin Durant was probably definitely a person he tried to like emulate a little bit. So having him on your team, man, that's just a huge W. But as far as other things that I'm thinking about as far as the season, we kind of touched on it a little bit. Amen Thompson and Reed Sheppard, so I won't go back to that. But I am wondering, this might be a little controversial, is Tari Eason going to be here? It seems like, they're, I don't know what it is. I don't know why. And, somebody asked Tari Eason about it, and that you laughing, exactly. Somebody asked Tari Eason about his contract in that opening press conference or whatever, and Yeah, you could kind of tell his mood kind of changed after that, and he that was kind of like he gave kind of a canned response. I do not talk. We're not talking about my contract.
Or Rafael Stone response. That's exactly what
Right,
Rafael
right. He
Stone would
got a
say.
canned response out of that. So, but you could kind of tell like there is some tension there because I don't know how close or how far apart they are. I won't pretend to know, but like the deal isn't signed, and I think they only have until today is Friday. This probably will air Saturday. I think they only have till Monday to get this deal done. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I know it's coming up. And so if they are not able to come to an agreement on a deal, like what does that mean as far as like what his future is here on the team? Are they, I don't know. There's a lot of things about Tari Eason that I really like. I think, as far as like defenders on the team, and there's Amen, and then you can make a case that he's probably the second best defensive player on the team, right? He's said in his press conference that he's been working on his game, like as far as ball handling and shooting. His shooting did not look good in preseason, but it's preseason. And we have a much larger sample size of him, actually being able to shoot at a decent clip in the regular season. So I'll look at that before I look at, any struggles that he had during the preseason. But like he's a valuable player of this team. I think he is a beloved player on the team as far as like personality. I think the guys like him. I've like met him a couple times in person. He's cool. Like I don't know, but like the contract situation, when you start talking money, man, it guys want to get paid, and the team obviously wants to offer him a contract that they feel is fair to what he produces on the court, and also like amount of games that he's playing. Like, are you as far as your health? Because I did see something that he still maybe is not going to be able to play back to backs. So I don't know if that's also going into some of the things that they're thinking as far as the contract. But yeah, I'm kind of concerned about the Tari Eason situation.
Yeah. So I will say that as far as that press conference, I remember exactly what he said because Daniel Lerner, Houston Chronicle, actually, I literally sat right next to her. She asked him that question. And I would just say Tari Eason, that's kind of how he is usually with press conferences. So I'll say that I don't know if that necessarily meant anything one way or another, but I will say that, I mean, absolutely. I'm sure he would have wanted to have his contract already signed by now, especially after seeing Jabari get his contract already done. But if I had to guess, the deadline is Monday. If I had to guess, I think they get the deal done this weekend. They really value what Tari brings to the team because he's just so unique as far as a player. They don't really have somebody that his size that is also kind of really versatile on the defensive end. Yes, Amen Thompson is also, 6'7", 6'8", but they're different type of defenders.
They're different, yeah.
Yeah, I think Tari Eason is more of he'll just throw his body onto the court, run into people. He's just a different type of defender. And you saw, I don't know if you remember that one play during the preseason where he scored a basket off a fast break, and then like 2 seconds later got the steal and went up against two people and then scored anyway. That's the type of player he is.
And we can't lose his mom, man. His mom is like an asset to the community, man. We got to keep her, man.
I don't know if you remember that Game of Thrones meme they always throwing out there where Jon Snow got the sword. It's 1,000. That's pretty much her pretty much every single day on Twitter. Like she just doesn't care. She'll go at anybody. And she went at the whole Golden State fan base. I remember during the playoffs.
Oh yeah, she sure did. I remember.
Crazy. So, but yeah, I think just overall, I think that they'll get the deal done before the 20th. Because if not, then he's a restricted free agent. Then kind of all bets are off at that point because another team can come in and offer him a lot more money, and then the Rockets may not want. You don't want to really go down that road if you want to keep a player. And I think they kind of did this because they also trying to restructure or work a deal with Kevin Durant at the same time. So I think that's kind of throwing things off a little bit. So I think they're kind of doing them both at the same time. So I think that's kind of why his deal hadn't been done yet. But I think ultimately, his deal gets done before. If I'll be surprised if it goes till Monday.
And I value Tari, like you said, it's good to have, like, he's a different defender than Amen, and you want to have like different like styles to throw at people. You know what I mean? Because every now and again, a guy will like get used to your tendencies, and then you know what? Okay, you getting used to Amen. We're gonna throw Tari on you, and we saw that back when the Rockets should have won that championship when Chris Paul pulled his hamstring, but we had Luke Bamute and we had PJ Tucker.
Yeah, he was out.
Who were both really, really, really high level defenders, but they did not defend in the same way. And so, like, if a guy was cooking PJ Tucker, you could put Luke on him. And Luke was so underrated, man. I hated
and he
that.
got hurt. Yeah.
Yeah, man. That was also, like, a lot of people don't talk about the Luke loss, but that was probably, it wasn't as devastating as the Chris Paul injury, but it was
up there.
Right up there.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that definitely the Tari Eason situation. I think it gets itself worked out this weekend. But, of course, we'll kind of have to wait and see with that. But just real quickly, you were talking about Kevin Durant and how he goes back and forth with people on Twitter. The one thing that kind of stood out to me was I won't say surprised, but just the few times I've talked to him, it's like he's just kind of totally different than the kind of how they make him out in the media. Like they kind of make him out to like a team killer, and he's the reason why Phoenix fell apart, even though he wasn't the one that requested a trade in the first place. But he's the reason why Phoenix fell apart. Did you see
that other clip where he was like, "Oh, they trying to trade me to Golden State"? You know?
Yeah, he was surprised. He like, hell no, I'm not going back to Golden State. So he wasn't the reason why. Yeah, he didn't want to leave there, and the whole thing with Brooklyn, it kind of made him out to be the scapegoat. But just talking to him a few times, talk to him, and just kind of the behind the scenes type thing, just watching him with the team. I just started covering him, so maybe I'm missing something. But just from what I've seen, I don't really see him as a locker room, like, people like to throw around the word locker room cancer all the time. But he seems to, already instantly have great chemistry with the entire team. Of course, he already knew Jeff Green from back in the Seattle Supersonic days. Royal Ivy is like one of his best friends in the entire world. So he already had that connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, of course, M.A., he already knew him from even before Brooklyn when they were playing against each other and when M.A. was playing with San Antonio. So he already had a lot of connections, but he already bonded with Alperen really well. Of course, he's worked out with Jabari in the offseason a lot before he even got to Houston. So he's already blending in really well with the team. So if there's any locker room problems that ever come up, I don't see that Kevin Durant will be the cause of that. But that's the one thing I can say. There really hasn't been any locker room issues with the Rockets. And I'm not just saying that because I, cover the team, but they always seem to really get along, even when they were really bad. Okay, even when they were rebuilding. I would say rebuilding. I won't say they were bad. They were rebuilding. Even then, they really always had really good team chemistry. So that's the one thing you can say about the Rockets. They all seem to get along really well. And Kevin Durant kind of just seems to fit in right with that. So, but before we get into the win-loss prediction, something we kind of talked about a little bit before we got on the air was Reed Sheppard. And we had, and I won't say a disagreement. I'll just say that we maybe have different views on him. And I'll just start by saying that offensively, I think he can still be a really plus player. I think he can shoot a lot better than he did last year. I think that he could be a sneakily good penetrator. He's not going to be somebody who's going to consistently get to the basket, but I think that he can occasionally get there. And, the floater game, if he can really get that down, I think he can be a really good asset on the offensive end. My only real big question is defensively. Will he be able to hold up defensively, especially if he's playing 20, 25 minutes a game? If he's playing 10, 15 minutes a game, you would like him to be a good defender, but who really cares? Just go out there and score buckets and make some shots. That's really what you care about. But if he's playing 20, 25 minutes, 30 minutes a game, he has to be a better defender than he was last season, because a lot of times teams were like going at him. Every single time he got on the court, they would go right at him.
They were going at him they were going at him not only like when he didn't have the ball, they were going at him when he did have the ball. Like they were definitely like picking on him on both ends of the court last year.
Yeah, so that's kind of my only question though. Can he be a full-time type player? Can he hold up on the defensive end? Because like we just talked about, teams are going to go at him every single chance they get just because of his frame. I mean, anytime a player like you were talking about with Fred VanVleet, you could be the greatest defender in the world, but if you're only 5'11" or 6 foot or 6'1", they're going to automatically think that they can take you to the basket or shoot over you. That's just kind of how it is. So can he hold up on the defensive end? And also, can he, something else you talked about earlier, can he hold up as far as ball pressure is concerned? Because preseason is one thing. Teams are not going to be going all out in the preseason and playing you full court and really getting into you. But that first game against Oklahoma City is going to be a huge test, because Oklahoma City absolutely loves to get up into the opposing team's guards and make them force the ball out of their hands and make them go to their weak hand and all types of things like that. So we're really going to see from the jump. And even the second game against Detroit, same thing. They play really tough defense, with the other Thompson twin. They're going to be playing really tough defense. And then they also got back Jaden Ivey. So that's going to be another really tough game. And you also know that they like to fight just as much as the Rockets too. So that's going to be another really tough game. So
they got beef. They got beef stew. Him and
Isaiah Stewart. Yeah, he will go toe to toe with anybody. He just doesn't really care. So we're going to really see really upfront, if he's able to handle that type of physicality. So that's really my main thing with Reed is not that I think he's going to have a much better season from 3-point range. I think he can be a really good player, or at least a above average player on the offensive end. It's just really, can he hold up on the defensive end?
So whenever I see Reed play like in spot minutes, I'm off it. Like I'm like off the Reed Sheppard bandwagon. I'm thinking, man, this dude, we drafted him number 3. Matas Buzelis was right there. I'm thinking of like all these things, man. But whenever he gets like extended playing time and extended minutes, I can't think of a time where he's disappointed. Like every time he gets on the court and he gets like 25, 30 minutes, I think he puts up pretty good stat lines. Even last year when he had to start, I think we ran out some kind of crazy lineup against the OKC Thunder last year. And he had like one, if not his best games, one of his best games. So for me, Reed Sheppard, I'm thinking, okay, I feel like the shooting, anytime he's able to like get shots up, he takes his shot in the offense in rhythm with confidence. I feel like the shots are going to come. Like sometimes he starts off kind of slow and misses them, but then he seems to like catch fire. So I feel like as long as he just keeps shooting, he's going to be good on that end. It's the ball pressure that kind of worries me, because I know last year he struggled heavily. He struggled mightily when people put heavy ball pressure on him. This preseason, he's looked a little bit better at times. I think he's still prone to the turnover here and there. And I think that's just to be expected, because he has not played enough minutes against NBA level defenders to kind of know what he can and can't do. He tries things. He tries passes that he probably shouldn't, because he has a really good feel for the court of where his teammates are. And you see it all the time. Like he makes skip pass. Like I think he's a better passer than Fred VanVleet. Is he a riskier passer? Yes. Is he more turnover prone? Yes. But he makes some like skip passes and some cross court passes. He does some things like vision after he penetrates to the basket, as far as like drop offs and things like that I don't really see Fred doing. But Fred is more of that steady hand guy, that guy who you can rely. He's not going to do anything flashy per se. It's just going to be steady. And maybe that's all we needed this year. But hey, we got Reed now. Reed's gonna have to step up to the plate, and he's gonna have every opportunity to sink or swim. And I'm kind of thinking, like I said, like last night, I kind of feel like Ime threw him to the wolves. He put him out there with, man, that lineup the Rockets threw out there last night. We had to do it with the glasses on.
Isaiah Crawford.
He looked like David Ruffin from the Temptations. They had people out there on the court with Reed who I know not making this team, and they went out there against an Atlanta Hawks team who pretty much played. They played guys who are in their rotation, their starters. Dyson Daniels wasn't out there obviously, but and Jalen Johnson, but like pretty much everybody else played that is of any of importance. Trae Young was out there. Reed Sheppard thoroughly outplayed Trae Young. He outplayed Trae Young, like played him off the court. Kristaps Porzingis was out there. They had their rotation out there for the most part, and like he rose to the occasion. I think that was a situation where he could have folded, because he was out there by himself with some guys who, like I said, probably aren't going to make the team, and going up against Atlanta rotation players, and he did a good job. So that gives me some confidence with him going into the season. I think Reed, ultimately, he's going to have some stinkers, obviously. This is kind of like his rookie season in a way, because he kind of got redshirted last year for the most part. So he's going to have some stinkers, but I think when his body of work is all said and done by the end of the year, I think we're going to say he had a good season.
Yeah. I mean, I think ultimately he's going to have a better season last year. I mean, how much better, that's kind of what it comes down to. But he's going to be given every opportunity, because at the very least, they're not going to be making any major moves until December because they really can't do anything until December
Right.
until guys come up for contracts or buyouts are happening, um, trade eligible, whatever it is. So he'll have plenty of opportunity to kind of make that, make everybody a believer. So we'll kind of see how that plays out. But before we wrap up the show, we definitely got to give our predictions for the season. Of course, it's always a lot harder for the NBA to do predictions than the NFL because you're talking about 82 games that you never know what's going to happen during the year. We saw last year the Rockets pretty much wrapped up the second seed a week or two before the end of the year. So you kind of never know how things are going to play out. But if I had to give a prediction, I was going with 54 wins just because I believe that they're going to be better than last year, but also believe that they're not going to press it that hard just because they're going to believe that they can win in the playoffs regardless of seed. They saw that what Golden State did to them last year. They didn't have the home court advantage. They still beat the Rockets in 7 games. Now you have a more veteran team with Kevin Durant here. I think they feel like they can just beat anybody anywhere. So I think they're going to get to a point where sometimes they're not going to play Kevin Durant on a 3 games in 4 nights type of situation. And they're not going to press it as hard. Now, if they were going out there and playing everybody 82 games, then yeah, they could probably get to close to 60 wins. But I just don't think that that's going to be their priority this year. They're going to be worrying more about, keeping people healthy and fresh going into the playoffs than trying to go out there and win a game against the Charlotte Hornets. I know I keep picking on the Hornets, but they're terrible.
They're a good team to pick on. I'm not
a good team to pick on. I mean, they're not going to go out there and play Kevin Durant the fourth game in 5 nights against the Charlotte Hornets in the game in late February. They're just not going to really care about that as far as pressing certain players. So I think they still win 54, 55 games this year. I think they get off to a really good start because they don't have a lot of back-to-backs to start the season. If I remember correctly, it's only like maybe 1 or 2 back-to-backs until December. They maybe only have like 3 the entire year of 2025. So they'll have time to kind of space out their practices and get some rest. So I think they get off to a really good start. I think they kind of coast in the middle of the season. And then I think they kind of, try to push a little bit to kind of get a certain seed. And after that, I think that last week or two, you're going to see the same thing where you're going to see lineups where they're going to be bringing up Isaiah Crawford to be playing alone, Reece Sheppard playing 40 minutes a game. So, yeah, I'm thinking 54 to 55 wins, not because I think they're not going to be a good team, just because I don't think they're going to be pushing as hard like they did last year. I think it was more important last year for that young team to win 52 games and be a second seed than this year team. I think the only thing they care about is not being in the play-in.
Right. So for me, it's crazy. That's why I kind of looked surprised when you said 54 because I was hovering between 54 and 55 prior to the Fred injury. I was thinking we could push maybe 58 to 60 wins. The only caveat to that was, like you said, Steven Adams is not going to be playing back-to-backs. I'm kind of concerned. I don't want them to extend Steven Adams. I kind of feel like we leaning so much into this double big thing that it's like, yeah, it works. Yeah, it's our curveball to the fastball, right? But you want Steven Adams healthy and you want him available in the playoffs. And I don't want them wearing him down by playing him heavy minutes during the regular season. So hopefully, I guess that's why we signed Clint Capella instead of signing a guard. But, Clint Capella is not Steven Adams, but that's a story for another day. But yeah, I'm thinking maybe 54, 55 wins just because of the fact. And we did not, by the way, we did not
talk about this.
And I just think that's kind of a natural progression to where they are. I think the team is better than it was last year, despite the losses. I think the additions are we're just going to be a better team once they figure it out. It might look a little sloppy. It might look a little bad at first because, all these guys have to learn each other. And, if you've been watching basketball for a long time, like I'm sure a lot of you have, some teams start the season and it's kind of like, what you see at the beginning of the season is not necessarily what you're going to see at the end of the season, especially when you got new players. You've made an addition to an all-time great player in Kevin Durant. And yeah, he's an all-time great player, but we still have to figure out how to integrate him into everything that they're doing. And we saw that in that first preseason game that Kevin Durant played. It started off kind of rocky. They were trying to force feed him the ball. They were like, oh, I'm out here with Kevin Durant. I got to get him the ball.
Yeah.
When they figured out, oh, just hoop. and the ball's gonna find Kevin Durant, and he started off 0 for 3 that game, and then he made 7 straight shots. So I think there's gonna be moments like that during the season where it doesn't look that great, but I think by the end of the season, like you said, I think they want to be hitting their stride going into the playoffs, and I don't think you want to play like older guys like Kevin Durant and Steven Adams too much to where we trying to win 62 games or something like that, and then you hurt them and they're not available and they're not full string going into the playoffs. So I think they're going to be managing those older guys a little bit, and that's why I'm thinking in that 54-55 game range.
Yeah, like I said, we hadn't talked about it before, but it just kind of seemed like the natural progression, just because, like I said, if they were really going all in, like if they had a young team like Oklahoma City, where pretty much all their players
they're all young, and they all young and dumb. They don't care.
Yeah, they don't care.
we got guys on the team who need icy hot after the game. We doing all of that stuff.
I mean, they going full pedal to the metal. They didn't really care about resting and all that. But you got Kevin Durant, you got Steven Adams, you got Clint Capella, you got Tari Eason, even though he's a year removed from the lower leg injury. You still trying to be cautious with that. And then they saw just what happened to Fred VanVleet. So, whether they admit it or not, that definitely got to spook them a little bit to where they're like, oh, man, we got to be careful with our other players. So, and then also on top of that, even though Jabari injury was kind of a freak injury last year, so you can't really worry too much about that one. But, you're dealing with tiny things like that, and you don't have a lot of depth in the backcourt. So any injury to the backcourt especially is really going to cause some major issues. So I think they're going to take a really cautious approach to this year. As long as they're not that 7th or 8th, God forbid they're 9th or 10th and something really went wrong. Right. But as long as they're not in that play-in scenario, I think they're fine being a top 6 seed. But of course, they want to be, you still would rather have home court advantage than not have home court advantage. So that's why I think they'll still be in that 54-55 game range. But man, the Western Conference is going to be a bloodbath anyway. So you could be a great team and still only win. I mean, the Rockets were the 2nd seed last year, only won 52 games. So 54-55 may get you a 2nd seed again this year. Like, who knows? But we'll kind of see how that plays out. Great first show. Great, having you back on the show during our season preview. We're going to have plenty to talk about. Hopefully, we'll be able to jump back on Tuesday night after the game, because they do have they are the first game of the season. So they're going to be on early. So hopefully we'll be able to jump back on Tuesday night and get in a podcast, kind of give our reaction to hopefully a Rockets win. We'll see how that plays out. But like I said, good to have you back on, Vator. I definitely appreciate it. We'll definitely be trying to do some more of these shows here pretty soon.
Yes, sir. It was just like it always is, man. So, we hadn't done a podcast in a while, but I guess they say it's like riding a bike, man. So I appreciate you. Keep doing what you're doing, man. I told you, man, I'm just proud of like everything you're doing. I kind of feel like it, even though it's not me, I'm like, man, look at my boy. He out here on the news. He got a regular segment on the news. He regular on the radio. All of the questions that you ask, post game, whenever you're able to interview those guys, they're always good quality questions. You always uploading quality stuff on the YouTube channel. So yeah, man, I just appreciate you, man. Just keep it up, man. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate that. And like I say, I wouldn't be able to do any of this if it wasn't for, people like you that did podcasts with me all this time. And then all the people that support the channel, definitely appreciate the support from everybody. Like I said, definitely from you. We've been doing this a while now. Even before we did podcasts, we were, in this kind of the same circles. So yeah, it's good to be able to still do this show with you. And like I said, I appreciate the kind words, and definitely looking forward to a even better season. We definitely appreciate all the support. Like I said, we're over 5,300 subscribers. We're looking to double that this year. Hopefully with the Rockets going beyond the first round this year. But of course, we're going to start with game 1 on Tuesday. When the Rockets take on Oklahoma City Thunder, definitely make sure if you're not a subscriber, subscribe to the channel. If you are new to the channel, definitely welcome in to all the people that are already subscribed. Like I said, I appreciate the support. And definitely make sure you check out the next episode of the Rocket Fuel Podcast.